Hey everyone, welcome to Code with KTK. I'm going to launch a full stack web development course. Whether you are a complete beginner or looking to sharpen your skills, this course is designed to take you from zero to full stack developer step by step. So, this is the course module. These are the modules we are going to cover. So, firstly, we are taking one programming language, that is Java. And next, we are going to learn some solid principles and design patterns. One DBMS, that is MySQL. For Java, we are going to use Spring Boot framework. In backend development, we are going to use Spring Boot and some tools like Kafka, AWS, Spring Security, Git, and some microservices we are going to build. And we are calling our backend services through Postman. Then we are going to build front-end development. Like we are using some HTML, CSS, Tailwind CSS, and JavaScript, React.js. Mainly, we are going to build React components and Node.js. Of course, this is another way of creating full stack project. Like we are going to learn main stack also, like Redux.js and Express.js, MongoDB, then deployment. So we are going to build a full stack project with Spring Boot and React.js. Another project with main stack. We are going to use MongoDB, Express.js and React.js and Node.js. Then deploy that main stack project. Let's dive into one of these modules one by one. First module we are going to cover, it is Java. So these are the Java topics. In these topics, we are going to learn from beginner to advanced. And first, we are going to learn about introduction to Java, then problems of procedure language, and some differences between JDK, JRE, and JVM, and control statements like if and else, and memory diagrams and constructors, and this keyword, and static variables and methods, and access modifiers like protected, default, public, private, and then polymorphism, inheritance, then final keyword, and revisit the static. In this inheritance, we are going to learn static very clearly, then constructor chaining, then super keyword, and access modifiers. We are going to learn in inheritance this protected keyword, then interfaces and abstraction. Then we are going to learn about multi-threading. We are going to learn about threads and some remaining points in thread 2.0. and collection framework we are going to learn, and then exception handling, some interview questions and functional interfaces. Then we are going to learn Lambda functions. Then next module is solid principles. We are going to learn single responsibility principle, open and closed principle, and Lisco substitution principle, then interface segregation principle. Then we are going to learn dependency inversion principle. Then we are going to learn design patterns. In this design patterns, 3 design patterns we have: creational patterns, structural patterns, and behavioral patterns. In creational patterns, we are going to learn about singleton, builder, prototype and registry, and factory model, and abstract factory. In structural patterns, we are going to learn flyweight and adapter and facade and decoration pattern. In behavioral patterns, strategy and observation pattern. The next module is unified modeling language diagrams. In this, we are going to learn class diagrams and use case diagrams. The next module is MySQL. So these are going to cover like introduction to DBMS, data types, schema design and normalization, and CRUD operations, joins and aggregation, some functions and transactions, indexing, subqueries, some views, then conditionals and union, then CTE and recursive CTE. The next module is Spring Boot. So we are going to learn these topics: introduction to Spring Boot, some basics we are going to learn, means some annotations. Then we are going to build some simple RESTful web services, and in that web services we are going to introduce database and backend features. Some backend features we are going to learn, means there is a service layer architecture, DTOs, model mapping, pagination and sorting, and some input validations, we will introduce Spring Security, then deployment. Some bonus topics like integrating MongoDB and front-end integration, sending email with Spring Boot, etc. Then we are going to learn low-level design. So low-level design, this is the very important module in our entire course. So in this, we are going to learn about solving the real problem. So solving the real problem is, for example, some LLD projects I am going to introduce, like designing a parking lot and creating banking system and creating class level designs for BMS, Book My Show, etc. So in this module, what we are learned up to this time, so we are going to implement in low level design. In design, we are going to use object oriented design principles, solid principles, and class diagrams and UML. Then designing a classes and interfaces, how these classes and interfaces are going to communicate with each other, and design patterns. We are going to implement these in this module, and exception handling, service designs, and MVC architectures and everything, and code modularity and reusability. Then scalability consideration at code level, like what we are going to achieve in this module is very important. For example, this module is all about what kind of application we are going to build and take all edge cases into consideration. Means there are 3 types of applications we have. In that, we are going to build on a class level design, then interactive app and backend API. These are the 3 categories in low level design. So in interviews, this module plays a very important role. When interview going to conduct about this module in low level design, so interviewer gives us a question to build something. Following steps to design an app for all types of applications. These are, first we have to take an overview on that application design. Then requirements gathering, what interviewer want to build, that we have to thoroughly clarify in that requirement gathering. Then we are going to design using class level diagrams and UML use case diagrams and using some design patterns, etc. Then we will code 1 or 2 features in that interview. Then discussion with the interviewer. So this is the main module in our journey. Then we will learn front-end development modules like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Tailwind CSS, then React.js, then Node.js, and Express.js, and MongoDB. We will implement in Node.js only, React.js, and then deployment. So in HTML, I categorize basic, intermediate, and advanced topics. So these are going to learn in basic HTML topics. And what is HTML, structure and boilerplate code, and HTML tags and elements, head versus body, HTML headings, paragraphs, line breaks, and text formatting tags, etc. And list, we are going to learn order list, unorder, and description list. In intermediate HTML topics, about links, images, tables, forms and input fields like text, email, password, checkbox, radio, and labels and field sets, and submit and reset buttons, and form validations like basic HTML5 and HTML semantic tags. These are very important: header, footer, section, and article, and main, and aside and nav, and iframes, block versus inline elements, and HTML entities, and comments in HTML, ID versus class attributes. These are very important. And advanced HTML topics like audio, video embedding, and meta tags, SEO basics mainly, and HTML5 input types like date, time, color, range, number, etc. Then next module is CSS. So basics of CSS, what is CSS, types of CSS like internal, external, inline CSS, and CSS syntax and selectors. Colors in CSS, like we are going to hexa, RGB, RGBA, and SSL. And units in CSS, we are going to learn pixels, EM, rem, percentage, view height, view width, etc. And CSS selectors, very important, like element, class, and ID. These are the topics like text and font styling, box model and layout. This is the very important. Then background and borders. This is the also important topic. And advanced layouts like flexbox and display. This is flex just in content. These are the some subtopics in flexbox and grid layout. So these 6 advanced layouts for the most important in CSS. Then CSS effects and animation, transitions, transforms. These are the some simple topics. Then next module we are going to learn JavaScript. In this JavaScript module we have 9 topics, very important. That is introduction to JavaScript. We will learn simple JavaScript, then basics, then control flow, then loops and iterations and functions. We are going to learn normal functions, arrow functions, parameters, arguments. We are going to pass and return some values, default parameters and callback functions. And array, these are the we will create an array methods, and looping through the arrays, printing them. Then map, filter and reduce. These are the higher order functions we are going to learn. In strings, some methods and template literals and string interpolation we are going to learn. In objects, creating an object and this keyword, object methods, nested objects, etc. So very important topic is DOM manipulation. What is DOM? Selecting elements, get element by ID, query selectors, and changing content, inner HTML, text content, changing styles. This is we are going to change the HTML at runtime. Then forms, then event handling, event objects and event delegation. Then forms and validations, some advanced topics in JavaScript, scope and closures, hosting, the event loop and call stack, set timeout and set interval methods, debouncing and throttling, and memory leaks and garbage collection. And ES6, this is the modern JavaScript. So we will implement from the start, but these are the topics we have to learn. These keywords like let, constant versus where we will discuss, and arrow functions, destructuring arrows and objects, print and rest operators, template literals and modules, import and export. Then object-oriented JavaScript like constructor functions, prototype, inheritance, class and extends, encapsulation using closures and super and these keywords in object-oriented JavaScript. Last, we will learn asynchronous JavaScript programming, that like callbacks, promises, async and await, fetch and API. We will learn these topics in this asynchronous JavaScript. The next module is Node.js. So these are the topics we are going to learn in Node.js. Introduction to Node.js. In Node.js, some basics we are going to learn, and file system, and we are going to learn events and event emitter, and HTTP module and NPM, Node Package Manager, and we will introduce Express.js. Then working with databases, we will include the databases and some CRUD operations we are going to implement, and REST APIs in Node.js. So in REST APIs, mainly working with Postman and CRUD APIs and pagination, and these are the topics we are going to learn. Then we will implement authentication in our project using user registration login APIs, hashing the password, introduction of JWT authenticator and middleware for protected routes. Then advanced topics like middleware and Express router and async and await in Express, error handling strategy, logging with Morgan instant, and rate limiting and throttling and CORS, and security headers. Some security headers we will implement. The next module is very important for front-end development, React.js. So introduction, components, mainly functional components we will implement. So introduction to React. So what is React? Why use React? And React versus vanilla versus other frameworks we are going to cover. Setting up React and the folder structure and overview, and JSX we are going to use, and rendering elements. So components in React. Next topic is components in React. So mainly use functional components and class components. I will give some introduction, and props, passing the data to props. And next, component reusability and children prop, and prop versus state, and state management, use state hook we will going to implement. Next, after that we will implement Redux.js to replace this state management, use state hook. And handling forms and React hooks, mainly we use ref, use memo, use callback and use effect. These hooks we will implement and use navigate and conditional list rendering, if else and map and list and styling in React. So styling in React we are going to use Tailwind CSS mainly. I will implement normal CSS and CSS modules and inline styling. Everything we will learn, but mostly we will learn in Tailwind CSS with React. Next, routing in React, calling the backend APIs and state management. This is the Redux. This is the Redux we are going to introduce. Then working with APIs like fetch APIs, use effect and use navigate. All API CRUD operations we are going to implement, and pagination, of course, pagination we will implement. Then performance optimization, React memo, use memo and use callback we will implement. Then error handling like try catch in asynchronous functions and callback UI error boundaries. And lastly, deployment and building for production. Mainly we will implement these, deploy our application in Vercel and Netlify, and we will use some environment variables in React also, and we will monitor our application then after deployment. So these are the topics and modules for web development we are going to cover in upcoming lectures. Thank you for watching.